March 8 marks International Women's Day, a day to celebrate the achievements of women worldwide, while acknowledging the work still needed to achieve gender equality. The theme for 2025, Accelerate Action, calls for us to urgently step up our efforts in empowering women, addressing the inequality they face and ensuring that no one is left behind. Although women have made strides in many areas, true gender equality still seems out of reach. On this day, we not only honor the incredible women who have shaped our communities, but also reflect on the progress we made to make for a future where women are treated equally in every space of life. Today, we are joined by Satang Dumbuya, a prominent Gambian human rights advocate who has dedicated her life to addressing gender-based violence and promoting women's empowerment. Satang is a recognized leader in the Gambia, known for her unwavering commitment to advocating for women's rights and creating platforms for young people to engage in social change. As the advocacy and campaign officer of the Network Against Gender-Based Violence and the founder of Airlight, Satang has empowered over 4,000 young people with the tools to challenge social norms and fight gender-based violence. Her work not only elevates women's voice but also nurtures the next generation of female leaders in the Gambia. As we celebrate International Women's Day, Satang's efforts reflects the urgent need to accelerate actions that will guarantee a future of equality for all women.
My name is Satang Dumbuya, and I work at the Network Against Gender-Based Violence as Advocacy and Campaign Officer. I am also the founder of ArtLight, which is a creative organization that is focused on using arts as a tool for advocacy. I lecture at the Management Development Institute, where my lecture focuses on gender and politics, gender-based violence, and gender and human rights. My journey as a human rights activist began more than 12 years ago, where I was focused on empowering women, because it was bizarre to me that apart from my house, coming outside, especially in schools, I attended very weak schools like St. Teresa's and Nusrat. I saw students faced with a lot of discrimination and violence, either at home or in the streets, and even sometimes in the school. As a young student that a lot of my other colleagues look up to, I felt like it was time to use my voice to address issues of gender-based violence, especially at the time, child's right. I remember I was in grade 7 when we began an organization within the school, empowering ourselves, talking about using drama, to address some of these issues, debate, poetry, and so on. And I was very vibrant in all of these, of course. So that was where my journey started to shape and form itself on promoting human rights, especially those of women and girls in the Gambia. ArtLight is an organization focused on using arts as a tool for advocacy because with my experience working with communities, it has shown that our normal ways of presentations and packing up and leaving the community is of course working, but it's failing mostly. And this was why I initiated ArtLight to use arts as a tool for advocacy, because human beings, we are visual beings. We tend to believe in what we see. And ArtLight talks about dramatizing some of these stories, writing them in blogs, podcasts, and all these things that you can think of that promotes arts as a tool for advocacy. So I began the ArtLight blog series called the Loud Silent series, where I started sharing stories of women and men that are faced with gender-based violence in the Gambia. Since 2023, I published few stories that people read, that survivors, I had to meet them to talk to them individually, and people read these stories. And the fortunate thing or the interesting thing about the blog is you can leave a comment on the blog for the survivors to read. You can leave a comment for yourself and for others. And of course, you can reach out to me. My direct numbers were available to hear more stories and write more of these stories. So it was very impactful because a lot of people reached out with their stories. A lot of people were willing to talk, and it gave me the chance to help a lot of people and stand by them through their healing journey. It felt as if the whole of Gambia was under violence. So for me, that was really impactful because I had to talk to people who never opened up to their stories with others. So it was really creative, but not only that, but it created a lot of impact as well and addressed the needs of a lot of survivors to heal and speak to someone trusted. So ArtLight created that platform and still continues to create such a platform. Women survivors of gender-based violence need a lot of support, especially from communities. The issue of underreporting that we still face in the Gambia is mostly because communities are not supportive. For example, somebody is being raped. and the person comes out to tell their story, we see that there's a lot of stigma attached to it, there's a lot of discrimination attached to it, and there's a lot of bad name associated to that individual and their families. So most of our questions is actually focused on the survivor. We blame the survivor. We are like, what did you wear? Why did you go there? What were you looking for? Oh, you called for it. And some of these issues tend to discourage survivors a lot. And this is why I think for survivors to be empowered, the communities need to empower them. Communities need to be there for them, create that enabling environment for people to report and people to be given the support that they need, and of course to be trusted. And this is what we usually focus on at the network by establishing the one-stop centers where we have survivor support, where we have counseling by the social workers, we have support from medical doctors and nurses, we have support from the police, and in fact, legal support as well. So this is very, very important towards the healing journey of the survivors. And these one-stop centers are based in communities inside the general hospitals of the government. So I think it's really important for communities to help survivors heal, to help support them, and also to help empower them. And this is what the survivors need. To accelerate gender equality for women in the Gambia, we need a lot of funding. We need a lot of funding, and I'm calling on the government, I'm challenging the government to provide funding for survivors, because these people that go through gender-based violence are also human. They are citizens of the Gambia. They are people just like us. They bear our names, our surnames. They eat from the same bowls that we eat from. So I think it's very important to invest in them and their well-being, and also in their healing journey. But not only finances, but also support the courts, the legal system, so that we can fast-track cases, because we've had cases of survivors that can take ages. And sometimes it discourages these survivors. They can seek justice, they can't find justice. So it's very important that we also support the legal fraternity so we can help accelerate action in that regard. And we have partners like UNFPA and the Ministry of Gender who are actually working on having a separate special court for issues of gender-based violence. Not only that, I also want to add that it is very important in accelerating action that we invest in the education of women and girls, because sometimes it's because of lack of education and the poverty that women are in that leads to all these issues of gender-based violence being meted and perpetuated on them. With the rising number of women in decision-making processes in the Gambia, the rising number of women farmers in the Gambia, the rising numbers of girls going to school, I am very hopeful that the status quo is going to change. And also the efforts of civil society organizations, be it NGOs, CSOs, and CBOs, we're all doing our best to ensure that people have the awareness that they need, that advocacy is there, the awareness creation is also there. So in the next future, like in the near future, I am seeing women to be empowered, to have the right to decide, and also to have the power to say, I do this or I want this, and that is going to happen to them. And we have a lot of women to look up to here in the Gambia. We have Ajikumba Dafe, we have Adelaide Sose, we have, I don't want to name names, and we have a lot of them, especially in politics, coming up and owning to their own stories, agreeing to the fact that this is what they do. We have prominent activists like Musubako Tosawa, Jamajak, we have Jahadukure, Fatu Balde, our award-winning activists, and we have so many of them. And these are not only role models, but their stories can create a lot of impact and changes in the stories, in the lives of other young girls that look up to them. So in the near future, I am seeing Gambian women empowered. I'm seeing them to be educated, and I'm seeing them to be people who stand up for truth and own up to their stories. I want to use this opportunity to wish every woman, every single girl, a happy International Women's Day, and also challenge our government, stakeholders, and every individual, even you, the woman, to accelerate action towards ending gender-based violence in the Gambia.
Satang's work is a shining example of the accelerated action needed to bring about real change for women's rights and gender equality. Her dedication to empowering women and youth shows us that progress is possible, but only if we act with urgency. As we commemorate International Women's Day, let Satang's effort inspire us to do our part in pushing for a more equal and just world for women. That's all we have for you for the International Women's Day. Thank you so much for watching. Aissatou Sow reporting for VOD.